Well, hello there everybody. How are you doing? Rosie Glow here. I really wanted to give you a little update on pain and pain management, whether it's emotional, physical, psychological, which for most of us it's in our heads, and also to explain to you how I've been dealing with mine. So yesterday I took part with my partner Ian in a Cambo ceremony with the lovely Annabelle Nicol, which is the second ceremony I've been to, and it was definitely really deep, like really deep this time. And what I wanted to talk about a little bit was the fact that there are many different paths to dealing with pain, and actually this is where we're at with humanity at this stage in life. Hello, those of you who are on, welcome. Essentially, we are living in a world where pain is rife. People are suffering massively from stress and the effect of stress, and I talk about the fact that we are basically dealing with post-World War traumatic stress relief, and most of us are in the habit of pain relief that masks the symptoms rather than dealing with the cause and also with the symptoms. Now, if you've been following what I do, you'll know that I'm an emotional mental detox coach, and I run coaching programs that support people to actually deal with their symptoms and their causes at the same time. So there are really two paths. One of them is around clearing up issues around our own birth and our own time in the womb and how that actually affects us. Because everybody has been born, and so anybody who is intending to become a parent, the greatest gift that you can give your children is to clear up the ghosts in your nursery, to clear up the trauma that you've inherited, that you may not even realise is trauma because it's just the way your family acts, it's the way your friends are, and you don't really come to understand that this is actually just the way people learn to cope, and because everyone around you is doing the same thing, you think it's normal. So whatever that is, whether it's, eating out of habit, eating for comfort, whether it's being a big drinker, a big shopper, a smoker, whatever, recreational drugs, whatever your thing is that you do, many people use exercise as a way of dealing with their pain. And actually, I have a lot of fertility clients that struggle to get pregnant because they are really into spinning, running, really hardcore activities that, even yoga, strong types of yoga, that basically bind them. So they're getting the endorphin release, but they're not actually dealing with things. So they're not getting a chance to do more than just symptomatic relief. They're just getting better for a moment, and then they're needing to do the same thing again. And essentially it's running away from what is within us rather than being able to look inwards and to be able to find love for all that is there. The way that this affects fertility is it just tones the muscles so much and creates this whole push out rather than pull in approach, because that's how stress is dealt with, that's how pain is dealt with. And this causes a huge problem. Like, this is probably the hardest time I have with clients, is getting them to soften their practices so that they can receive the conception, if you like. Now that's one path. The other path also that is affected, in that path is obviously having had a lot of trauma, a lot of unmet needs. Most of us have had the experience, hello lovely Hope, of not having our needs met as babies and as children. And often we are suppressed, or we have our parents put their own needs and agendas upon us, and they're not very good at being able to read what we need. And I know I've been through this as a parent myself. As a young mum, I was a single mum, very stressed out, not really able to meet my daughter's needs because I was so caught up with needing to meet my own. And the effects on our children last a very long time until they actually choose to deal with their own healing. So it's a legacy that we don't really want to put forward, and I do urge every woman and every man who is thinking about becoming a parent to deal with their own trauma first. And this is where we're talking about the different paths that actually are there. So that's one angle. The other angle are people who are basically motivated by fear. This is where my Fearless, Empowered and Free to Be Me program comes in, because if you live in such a way that you need to control things in order to feel safe, and therefore make your decisions based on fear motivating you, so what could happen if you don't do this and you don't do that, then you are a prisoner of your conditioning, and this means that your capabilities are really limited, and what's possible in your life is limited because you're not going beyond the conditioning you've had and seeing that the blinkered view that you inherited is actually just a blinkered view, because we're all living virtual realities effectively. You know, our perception of life, our perception of ourselves massively affects our experience of it. And when you shift your perception, and I am real testimony to that, as are all of my clients, life really changes. Our relationships change. Our relationship to ourselves, our own bodies, our own minds, everything that goes on in your head. You know, my head used to be a place full of worry from the moment I woke up until the moment I went to bed. An endless list of to-dos, never quite feeling like I was winning on a day-to-day basis. And this was even when I, was already on a path of learning and discovery, and I set up Enjoy Yoga in 2004. I was still massively motivated by fear, and stress was what was propelling me forward. And most health conditions are triggered by chronic stress. It is like a massive issue with fertility. It's a massive issue with lots of other health factors as well. So all autoimmune illnesses, everything from Parkinson's to cancer to ME, MS, fibromyalgia, all that kind of thing, chronic pain, this is all stress. Now, I do believe very much that it is so important to deal with both the symptoms and the cause, because you can't really deal with the cause until you're starting to feel better in yourself. And joy is by far the most helpful vibration in being able to get you to where you want to be. So although there are lots of factors that can contribute to stress and actually keep it going on a high level, when you choose to embrace joy and you choose to embrace making your life as joyful as possible as the first remedy, that really does help you to then have the confidence to delve deeper and to go into the things that are scary to face, to look at your blocks, to look at your triggers. But we do need to deal with the surface as well as what's underneath. If you just stick with the surface, you will only ever get surface results. So you get these small wins, but they don't really take you where you most want to go. Now, I've been on an accelerated path of dealing with my subconscious inheritance since 2014, and this was because, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I seemed to have a constant issue with attracting the right kind of relationship, and also with money and time. Actually, all of it was an issue. It just felt like I never had enough of what I actually wanted and needed, and much of that was just down to what I was allowing myself to have. So when we come to a space of feeling full and fulfilled, then we are able, hello Nicole, to be able to start to give from a full cup. But most of us who are struggling in this world, as in we feel pain, we feel emotional pain, psychological pain, hello Yana, we feel physical pain. We are in such a place where we're just trying to take that pain away, and everything that we kind of encounter really does affect us, and it's like we're trying to run away from what is there, and it's essential we don't, and it's essential that we find the tools to be able to manage and to realise that when we feel in pain in ourselves, we're going to see that in the world all around us. When we are managing our own pain, when we are healing ourselves, we'll start to see evidence of that all around us as well. And everybody has their own path. But many of us in pain, and that includes many therapists, many yoga teachers, many carers, most people in some kind of vocational profession, including teachers, are so caught up with supporting others in their pain that we often neglect our own. And it is very important when you're on a path to continue to delve deeper into your pain. Now, as I work as an emotional mental detox coach, I work with all the key areas that keep us bound. Hello, Patrick. Hello, Michael. Lovely to see you both. And, as you chip away at the surface, it's like pulling away the bricks that are easy to pull out until the big wall tumbles down. One of the key things is we must put ourselves first, but it's so against our conditioning. We feel like we are selfish if we put ourselves first. We don't realise that if we put others first, then what we're doing is we are effectively stopping ourselves from growing and being able to be effective, because what we do is we just limit our capacity to be powerful. We're scared to be seen in our joy. We're scared to be seen in our success because of what other people will think, because we're caught up in this idea that, you know, who am I to have all of this wonderful stuff when other people have so little? But if you are coming from a place where you are struggling to help others and you're not facing yourself, then you end up building lots of resentment, lots of bitterness, lots of judgment in yourself. And this just perpetuates a cycle that is unhealthy. So what I led to when I was going to talk about the Cambo was that many people these days are seeking to deal with their deeper stuff. And there are different ways of doing this. I find that I do turn towards more earth-based medicines like Cambo and other ceremonial medicines that take you very deeply into your whole being and give you the opportunity to clear very, very deeply. And this is very effective, but if you are not finding another path to actually help you do things in a more gentle way, it means you can have to go through this mill many times. Like, I know people who are doing lots of Cambo repeatedly, or they're doing other plant-based medicines very often in order to be able to clear, and it's a very tough path. I mean, yesterday there I was intending to clear what was the residual resistance that was there from 6 months before when I did a previous Cambo session. And yesterday was really tough. I mean, I've done a lot of work on myself, as many people I work with say they've done a lot of work on themselves. So when you find yourself going into some very deep places, it can be really, really tough. And you think, wow, there's so much there. Now, if you have the intention to clear absolutely all of your trauma as a soul, you're going to be very busy, and it's not going to be very helpful because you're not here to clear everything in this life. Your soul has chosen certain lessons that it's here to master, and if you just align with that and you align with your greatest desires, your greatest passions, then what you're going to be able to do is to deal with what's in front of you, as these are the blocks that actually prevent you from moving forward and having success in the areas of life that as a soul you've chosen here to come to master. If you're looking to heal everything, then all you will ever find are problems to deal with. So we have to find this balance between living our lives, enjoying our lives, and then dealing with blocks that come up and finding the right medicine to be able to deal with that. I am an absolute advocate for the work that I do because I've seen the success that it gives me, but I have also gone and done other work as well. So rebirthing was a huge part of my work earlier in my life when I was really focused on pregnancy and baby trauma. As I've grown through that, now I've been looking more at Cambo, which, if you don't know what it is, it's basically frog medicine. And it's a purging medicine, as there are other purging medicines. Now, I bridge worlds. Here I am in Croydon, I live in Brighton, and I find that in Brighton people are very interested in more of these ceremonies and these traditional medicines, whether it's ayahuasca, whether it's Cambo, whether it's peyote, whether it's other forms of delving deep into our soul and our soul learning. But it's not everybody's cup of tea, and in order to be able to really do the deep inner work, I find that it's easier to meet people where they're at and then take them deeper, because they start seeing the results that they're getting and they have confidence in the fact that they are moving forward without being perfect. This was a huge lesson for me, that I had to recognize that I didn't need to be perfect in order to have the things that I wanted to have. The moment that I made the decision that I deserved to have love in my life now, money in my life now, grace and ease in my life now, then very quickly the blocks that were preventing me from having those experiences were revealed, and it was all to do with deserving and worthiness. Now, where we get stuck is we can understand this with our heads. It's like reading a book that tells you what the problem is, but it doesn't tell you how to fix it. And all the affirmations in the world, all of the yoga in the world, all of the intention setting on its own will not actually reap you the rewards that you want unless you clear out the resistance that relates to those specific things. So 6 months ago, I set in motion the fact that I wanted to be able to attract a partner into my life that really was my sacred union, divine counterpart, ascension partner. I also wanted to shift my game in terms of the work that I'm doing and work with decision makers, work with people that really could start to deal with their own trauma in such a way that they no longer wanted to show up as CEOs of huge multinationals, promoting, profit over well-being, promoting profit and control and greed, essentially, over the sustainability of this planet and humanity and well-being of all beings here. So that was very important to me, as was being able to increase my income so that I was an example of someone that was able to clear my financial blocks and not let money be the issue. Now, poverty consciousness is massive. It's something that affects so many of us, and it doesn't actually matter whether you have lots of money or you don't. It's if you feel a lack in yourself, if you feel like you don't have enough. You can have millions of pounds and still be in lack consciousness, millions of dollars even, because you're in a place where you're constantly trying to hold on to what you got. So back to the Cambo, back to all these traditional medicines. I did so much in those 6 months, like I cannot tell you how much shifted, even after all these years of doing the deeper work that I have, which led me incrementally to where I am and allowed me to start to conceive of unimaginable horizons. But yesterday, I decided to take the deepest delve into my being possible, which was to really start to clear the DNA of mistrust. And mistrust is huge, and most of us are affected by it, because if I go back to the World War stuff, many of us lost loved ones, many of us lost whatever wealth we had, whatever resources we had. We went into poverty consciousness as a collective, and we haven't really come out of it. We're still, everything from our healthcare system in the UK to the way schools work, to the way institutions work, is very much about managing issues as they come up. And it's not so much about prevention as it is about dealing with what's here and now. And the emergency services, for example, really struggle because most people in the emergency services are in a constant state of fight or flight, which then leads to exhaustion, which can lead to depression. And that also goes for people who are working shift work. So emergency services, health profession, like whether you're a nurse, you're a doctor, the stress levels are so high, teachers, it affects so many of us. And unfortunately, as it affects so many of us, we just perceive it as normal. And it really isn't. It is totally conceivable to imagine a world where we are no longer motivated by fear as our main motivation, where we're not just trying to deal with things as a patch it up now and we'll deal with it later. We have the capacity for each of us to own our own pain, to work through our own pain, and as a result of that, to shift our perception of how we can be in the world, how we can help the next generation to thrive rather than survive the environment they're in. And we really can look even further at, hello Dana, we can look further at what we want to seed into the future, because we need to create a sustainable model for this planet. And that comes from creating a sustainable way of living in ourselves. So the plant medicines really help us to be able to delve deep and to go deep into places where we're not just healing ourselves, but we're healing our ancestral influences, we're healing our DNA, which means we're supporting our ancestors, our loved ones, whether they're alive or deceased, to be clear of what they were holding that they didn't have the capacity to deal with. And we're also helping the future generations, again, whether they've been born yet or not. So, if you have children already and you do this deep inner work, it will affect their cellular memory. It will actually clear their trauma for them to the capacity that it depends on their age. So under the age of 7, you have a lot of influence as they get older, because you change. You are helping them to deal with what you planted in them that perhaps wasn't as effective and helpful as you can be now. And that's definitely my experience with my daughter, is being able to hold space for her and the pain that she's in, and to help her to manage where she's at and to shift her perception. The more we cultivate inner forgiveness, inner compassion for ourselves, the more we can do that for others. So yesterday's journey was really an opportunity for me and my partner to be able to clear our past of all previous relationships, all previous experiences that put us in a place of lack mentality and also deep pain, emotional and psychological pain as a result of relationships that didn't go well, of relationships that deeply wounded us in our best intentions. And I tell you, I can't really describe what it was like watching my partner take this medicine and go through his process, which was incredibly deep. He hasn't done any work like this before, and he's doing that for him and for me. And it was just so beautiful, and I felt so honoured that he would do that for me. And equally, I then went into my process after. The first song that Annabelle put on was actually 100,000 Angels, which is by Bliss, and I immediately lost my shit because that was a song that the last time I heard it was at my mother's funeral, and I haven't been able to listen to it since. And this is a thing, Cambo is a purging medicine, so you basically have burns put on you, and then the medicine administered, it goes through your bloodstream, and you drink lots of water, and then you bring up what's there. The intention is very powerful. I decided to work with my root chakra and with this deep mistrust, and I'm not going to lie, I was in process, and at that point, I just wanted it to stop. I wanted to die. I was just like, why do I do this to myself? This is awful. And I'm a proper whinger as well, by the way, when I'm in these processes. So, came through it, felt pretty dreadful yesterday, as did my partner, but oh my goodness, the shift just from yesterday to today, our connection this morning, our ability to meet each other in an even deeper place than we've been already, the softening that was created, the space that was created, because we'd both pulled out of us some really deep stuff. And that allowed us to be present with each other without fear, without the fear of rejection, abandonment and betrayal. And this is this thing about trust and mistrust. You cannot really trust another person until you deeply trust yourself. And it only came out yesterday that I actually said to him, I said to Annabelle, that he is the first man I've ever truly trusted. And that's pretty deep, you know, that includes my dad and my stepdad and every other man I've been with. Because, you know, when you've had a lot of deep wounds and you haven't been met in your early life, your mum and your dad kind of are the prototype for how you feel about men and women, and they're always doing the best they can. But if they haven't met you where you needed to be met, it can really leave very deep wounds, and that affects every relationship you have. So it's a tough path, Cambo, just like other plant medicines, and it is very worthwhile doing. But I do believe doing the pre-work is very powerful. Certainly, other plant medicine I've done, I've taken clients of mine who've done my Fearless program or Conceive with Ease, and we've gone and done work together. And they would never have done this deeper work if they hadn't done the deeper work with me. So I'm a huge advocate of like going with the Fearless, Empowered and Free to Be Me program or Conceive with Ease program first, and then opening the door to doing these other ceremonies. Obviously, you can just go down the ceremony path, but it tends to mean that you need to do ceremonial work much more often. Some people will do like lots and lots of Cambo in order to get there. And for me, it's a real tough process, and it is for everybody who goes through it. It's not one that people breeze through. It's really tough. There are gentler ways to do things, and the two work very well. If you know me, you know I also run cacao ceremonies, and cacao ceremonies are beautiful because they get you in touch with your heart, and they will take you into your pain body if you've got stuff to clear in order to move you into your bliss body. So we have been gifted so many tools. Some are faster than others. Some are going to get you there much quicker. And people I know who've been yogis for years, they've been meditators for years, they're doing great, but the process is slow. They listen to lovely talks, they get inspired, their mental body fires up, they start to understand things, they have a few aha moments, but then they drop back into the despair, the anxiety, the loss of hope. And this is what will happen if you haven't really cleared your subconscious of the erroneous beliefs, the misperceptions of life and yourself that hold you in the victim consciousness paradigm, which is the third dimensional paradigm, which is motivated by fear. So I really, really want to promote that when you get on your path, your teachers will start to come to you. And if you're feeling a calling to do deeper work, it's very important you trust the person that you are going to work with, and you also aspire to where they're at. You know, you want what they've got. There's no point in going to people that aren't there in terms of what you want to achieve. I find that I have had to sort of work with different coaches, different teachers, depending on what I've actually wanted to clear, and I have deep respect for everyone that I've worked with. Huge respect to my teacher, Rosanna Kalliabetsos, who gifted me the emotional mental detox training that I now do. So I trained as an emotional mental detox coach with her, and that's part of all of my coaching work to date. And also huge respect to Brenda, who's been this amazing woman who has just got me through the little blind spots that were preventing me from anchoring into my physical reality, the shifts that had happened already in my energy field. So, you know, the massive increase in income, the physical manifestation of a beloved, of a human being that can meet me where I want to be met as my sacred union divine counterpart, the successes with business, with opportunities, my health, my well-being, everything that I've aspired to, I've needed to go to a different teacher. With Annabelle yesterday, she held space beautifully for this sort of deeper medicine of ancestral clearing. And, you know, I would always say clear yourself first, then you do the other stuff. Because, again, if you're looking to help everybody else out in your ancestry or in front of you, so your children, and you're not actually looking at how you need to clear yourself in order to be able to be effective to them, it's going to be one of those things that you are depleted as a process. So it's important to be able to deal with yourself first and to choose the method that is most appealing to you. I'm a big believer that if you want big results, you make big investments. And certainly my biggest life-changing moments have been when I've parted with large amounts of cash. Thankfully, we live in a digital economy now. But, you know, it's about stepping out of your comfort zone and going, right, I am really deeply committed, because this isn't something that I'm going to do half-heartedly. I'm going to put all of my energy into this because I've invested in myself and I believe in myself. And this is often the biggest block that people actually have, is they don't feel they can justify spending that money on themselves when they've got mouths to feed and they've got rent to pay and all the rest of it. But the point is, when you make a commitment to yourself, life conspires to support you to meet that commitment. If you are committed to meeting it no matter what, the money, the support, the resources, the time, everything comes together to be able to support you to do it. So I would encourage you to review how you currently deal with the pain in your life. Do you talk to your friends? Do you actually dump on your friends? Do you deplete your friends? Do your friends deplete you? Because if we're talking all the time about our problems and we're just going to others and having a whinge, really, we're just practicing a form of energy vampirism. Hey, Bria! And that is pretty toxic because it leaves others depleted. It might leave you temporarily feeling better, but all you've done is purged onto another person. They're having to deal with your toxic load, and you only fill up with more of that toxicity because you haven't really shifted your vibration. You've just emptied yourself, and then you're going to fill up again with more of what you expect. And so we often do this in our friendship circles, which is constantly reiterating a loop. And I remember this when I was a single mum and hanging out with lots of other single mums, and it was kind of a loop that I had to get out of because we were all the downtrodden, hard done by single mums. There was never a decent man around, there was never enough money, there was never enough support, and we just perpetuated that cycle in each other. I actually had to leave those friends, step out, feel like the loss of that support before I could step up. And I was always very self-motivated to do it. But really, the point with this is that our friends are there to help lift us up. They're there to help encourage us into the next phase of who we want to be. Often, though, they limit us. It depends on what level you're kind of connecting to your friends on, because birds of a feather flock together, and if you are stepping up, then you will meet resistance from others if they feel like they can't step up. So being a shining light, being an example and saying, yeah, I've done it, you can do it too, but you know what? I'm not going to enable these patterns in you anymore, and I don't want you to enable these patterns in me anymore. And that's where friendships can become accountability partners. Friendships can become bullshit detectors because, we don't want to be depleting each other. We want to be inspiring each other to grow. And that means we need to have our own boundaries. We need to be able to have boundaries around our time and how much we give to others. I know that I've felt huge expectations from some of my friends in the past to really be there for them. And I'm like, hold on a minute, I'm here for myself. I'm here to support myself. I can definitely try and support you with where I have a surplus, but I can't put your needs ahead of mine, and neither should you expect me to. And this is where we're willing to do a bit of tough love, really, because if you're not going to look inwards, if you're just going to keep projecting outwards and expect those around you to hold you, to catch you, to hear you, that's not cool. It's not going to help you to grow. It's actually going to keep you stuck. And notice whether people really do meet you. Notice whether people do really step up, or whether you feel like your friends aren't there for you. They're avoiding you. They're limiting their time with you, because that will all be an indication of the fact that they find it difficult to be around you. It's very important to look at whether you actually inspire others and fill them up, or whether you deplete them. And also look at the friends you have and consider whether they inspire you or whether they deplete you, because you don't want to be engaging in friendship dynamics that keep you stuck in a loop. So that's my offering to you today. And you know what? When one person makes that choice to lift themselves up and goes, come on, come with me, this is amazing, you basically set the tone for everyone around you to also lift up. And that is the influence you can have on others when you start to dig deep. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be horrendous. My path is one where I've chosen grace and ease, and I've really had to master grace and ease. And that means learning when I'm pushing myself in places that are not healthy, and knowing when it's good to dive deep and make myself feel a little bit uncomfortable, like I did yesterday, to get this deeper growth. Whatever you invest in, you will get the results if you invest fully. But it is important to look at what you are connecting with and to consider what the outcomes are that you want. If you just want to be in your mind, that's all that will happen. Whereas if you are willing to step into your heart and to challenge the stories of your mind, then you will really be able to do the deeper work, because the mind, the heart and the body all need to be connected with each other. The soul needs to be connected with the mind and the body, and more often than not, the mind and the heart. More often than not, it is the mind that blocks our progress, because that's where the conditioning is. So look around you, just see what's going on for you at the moment. Be really honest with yourself about how you feel and how you are coping with the pain that you're currently in. If you are masking symptoms and you are not wanting to look at the causes, then in the end, you're just really doing yourself a disservice and those around you, because the freedom that comes from actually looking inwards and being willing to dive deep with someone holding your hand is tremendous. And it is my offering to you to consider this. So whether you choose Cambo initially, whether you choose to work with me initially, whether you choose to maybe do something like Co-Creation Success, which is another course I run, which is about the mental body, and it teaches you how the outer world is a reflection of your inner world. That will really help you, because everything around you is basically telling you about your dialogue with yourself. And when you enter into that, that will then teach you so much, because as you shift your inner world, you'll see the outer world around you will shift too. And then it moves out of striving towards something to actually maintaining it. You know, when you start to live your dream, as I'm doing now, then it's just about dealing with the residual fear of being able to maintain it and to expand beyond it. And that is the offering, is that the better it gets, the better it gets. The worse it gets, the worse it gets. So if you're in a downward spiral, you really want to say, stop, what's around me, what can I reach to, how can I invest in myself to support myself to move out of this? And it's the discipline of re-engaging the mind, instead of looking for everything that's wrong in your life, to start looking at everything that's right in your life. That will start to shift things. Then you do need to take a leap. You need to invest in something that's going to support you to move forward. And from that, as you have your big breakthroughs, you then have little breakthroughs as well, and you are able to really see how things around you shift. Everything from finances to relationships to health to family dynamics, all of this changes. And the opportunities that come your way, all you have to do is say yes. But you do have to shift your vibration first. So if you're ready to say yes, get in touch. I would be delighted to connect with you. Remember, you have the opportunity of doing breakthrough calls with me, which will in themselves actually give you a breakthrough, but also the amount you pay for the call, which is £100, will be put towards doing a course with me if you decide to carry on and do the coaching work with me, which I highly recommend you do. Keep an eye out on all of the testimonials on the Rosie Kalliabetsos page, and do check out Rosie Glow, YouTube and the Facebook page and YouTube, because they will inspire you daily. We have an Instagram account as well with daily prayers, which are the energy of the day that will keep you aligned with the divine. And the divine is you. It's the highest aspect of you that wants to live out its legacy here on earth. So we're all here, all of us doing this work are here to support you to move out of struggle into thriving. So all you have to do is make a choice, and when you make that choice, step forward. Lots of love, take care. And if you do want to contact Annabelle Ncambo, look further down on my feed today, because I've tagged her. And I think she has a page called Number 45, which is where she runs things from. So feel free to check that out. And if you are interested, we have a new moon meditation this Thursday, 1 p.m. on my YouTube channel, which will be posted again on the Rosie Glow Facebook page later in the day, so you can do it in the evening if you want. But this is the time now to be setting intentions for the following month. Perfect time to be thinking about things you want for Christmas. Way more important to be doing self-inner work than any of the short-term things that will give you some benefits but not really going to take you where you want to go full-time. It's the full-time shift that we're all after. And I believe that when you make that choice, you really do get the support from life to get you there. So you just have to be willing to embrace your fear and move through it. I'll leave it there. Lots of love. Namaste.